What is the most crucial thing to European countries right now? Well, an energy crisis is looming around. What are the challenges they're facing? Well, let's talk about LNG today, one of the most crucial energy types in the world. I'm Saina, welcome to Factstel. And if you're interested in news talk shows, please remember to subscribe to our channel. Alright, LNG, liquefied natural gas, just as its name suggests, natural gas that has been cooled down to liquid form. In order to use LNG, the process is rather complicated, involving liquefaction, transportation, and regasification. Today's global natural gas industry is dominated by two types of suppliers: exporters LNG and traditional pipeline gas sellers. Russia is certainly the latter, which for decades has had a strong energy partnership with Europe. However, since the Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out earlier this year, we've been witnessing an energy crisis sweeping across the continent of Europe. This came after a round of sanctions slapped on Russia by the US and some of its allies. For context, the EU relied on Russia for almost 40% of its natural gas needs in 2021. And for the US, it's zero. Why? It's because prior to the conflict in Ukraine, the US natural gas market was already closed for Russian exports. And it had been that way for at least a number of years. That's according to official data provided by US Energy Information Administration. Back then, the US had no capacity and demand for Russian natural gas. And let's see if I've got this right. So shortly after the conflict erupted, we saw US President Joe Biden announce a total ban on Russian LNG. That was on 8th March. And bear in mind, this was a country that was not importing any Russian natural gas at all. On that same day, Biden also said this, and I quote, "We are moving forward on this ban, understanding that many of our European allies and partners may not be in a position to join us. But we're working closely with Europe and our partners to develop a long-term strategy to reduce their dependence on Russian energy as well." If working closely means taking financial advantage of its partners, he surely moved fast to achieve that. Because in less than 3 weeks, on March 25th, Biden successfully sealed a deal with President of Europe Commission, and two held a joint presser.
The United States and the European Union are going to work together to take concrete measures to reduce dependence on natural gas, period.
All right, let's run all these up. Basically, the leader of a country that imported 0 units of Russian natural gas had convinced the 27-country bloc, which relied on Russia for around 40% of its gas demand, into cutting back on imports as quickly as possible. And as an alternative, the EU set a new supply deal with the US, in which the US would hike its gas deliveries to its transatlantic friend. So, this brand new supply deal is in whose best interest and at what cost? Let me walk you through some of the details. European governments now have to purchase LNG from the US by ship, as opposed to gas by pipeline from its previous energy partner, Russia. While some countries in Europe are relatively better connected to LNG terminals, the infrastructure is not available everywhere on the continent. Building new LNG import terminals can take years and cost a fortune. Research estimates that for EU, the short-term cost of reducing energy dependence on Russia could amount to 100 billion euros, including 50 billion euros to rebuild reserves, 25 billion euros extra costs of non-Russian supplies, and 25 billion euros to organize distribution within EU. But for the US, with all due respect, this is a great deal. According to data from International Energy Agency, the month of June had become the first month in history in which EU had imported more gas via LNG from US than via pipeline from Russia.
We have seen that the LNG deliveries from the United States by now have tripled.
Data sets from other agencies show the US is on track to become the largest exporter in global LNG waste, expected to surpass Australia and Qatar by the end of this year. Yet, on the other hand, the EU is, however, struggling to keep things together. While the US could certainly benefit from selling every unit of LNG to its European allies. They, however, are facing a looming energy crisis mixed with a whole lot of problems. The short-term gas prices, for example, were 5 times higher than their 2021 average in the first quarter of this year.
When we saw the Russian operations in Ukraine, there wasn't a massive immediate impact in the natural gas price. But since then, every time we've had more, as I say, sort of almost suicidal supply policy in Europe in terms of cutting itself off from its existing supply. We've just seen these supply issues get worse and worse.
Economically speaking, rising costs in the energy sector can basically lead to price surges everywhere. Annual inflation in the Eurozone hit 8.6% in June, even higher than 8.1% in May. This inflation rate is in fact at its highest point since records for the common currency began in 1990s. And people living there are suffering as well.
The cost of everything is going up, milk, bread, gas, but your wages don't go up. So the cost of living has greatly affected everybody's lifestyle and living in general.
You have to be working 50, 60 hours so you're able to meet your bills and pay your rent. This is not acceptable in today, the 21st century.
This is painful. And you know what? It's been 11 years since the US became the world's largest producer of natural gas after overtaking Russia in 2011. And now, opportunities have finally landed in America's laps to claim the crown as the world's top exporter of LNG, with European countries backing it up as solid buyers. Europe has been a great friend to America, but has America kept its friends' best interest in mind? Well, let's take a quick look on what it promised the EU.
The availability and use of renewable energy. We're going to accelerate widespread adoption of energy-efficient technologies and equipment.
However, with gas supplies running out faster than actions taken, countries such as Austria, Germany, Italy, and Netherlands, they had to resort to restarting old coal power plants, which they had aimed to phase out of environmental concerns. When it comes to reshuffling the global natural gas market, perhaps no other country has had this smooth ride as the US. Yet amid rising cost of living, widespread protests, an energy crisis nightmare, and a worrying resurgence of highly polluting coal, European countries have paid a fairly high price for making a historic effort to wean themselves off Russian gas. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you like our show, please remember to click like and also subscribe. And also leave your comments down below. We want to hear what you guys are thinking. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.